It's been said you don't cross the boss, but here are 12 WWE wrestlers who legitimately no-showed an event and walked out on the WWE. Number 1. Sergeant Slaughter. It's difficult for today's fans to realise how over Sergeant Slaughter was in 1984. The villainous Marine drill instructor turned patriotic babyface's feud with the much-hated Iron Sheik couldn't have come at a better time, capitalising on the Cold War tensions and a renewed wave of patriotism in the United States. However, Sergeant Slaughter and Vince McMahon began arguing about Slaughter's outside work for Hasbro Toys' G.I. Joe action figures and cartoons. Sergeant Slaughter had the opportunity to work as Hasbro's spokesman for the toy line and cartoon series, a natural fit given his patriotic wrestling character, but Vince McMahon gave Slaughter an ultimatum: the WWF or Hasbro. Sergeant Slaughter would choose Hasbro, walking out on the WWF, and instead join Vern Gagne's American Wrestling Association. Although Slaughter became a top player in the failing AWA, he would come to regret the decision, undoubtedly losing out on what could have been a profitable run during the WWF's expansion years. Number 2. Butch Reed. While Butch Reed is arguably best remembered in the WWF for his blonde locks as the natural Butch Reed, the WWF had big plans for him and reportedly wanted to make him the promotion's first African-American Intercontinental Champion. Unfortunately, the night Reed was slated to win the belt from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, he no-showed the event, leading to the Honky Tonk Man winning the belt. Honky Tonk Man's run with the belt would take him to stardom, and he remains to this day the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWE history. Butch Reed reportedly missed several house shows due to burnout from the WWF's vexing road schedule, absences which cost him a major championship. Number 3. Rey Mysterio. One of the oddest walkouts on this list occurred when Rey Mysterio was recovering from a wrist injury in 2014 when he discovered the WWE had renewed his contract without his authorization. As you can imagine, Rey was none too pleased and refused to return to the WWE. Mysterio was already disgruntled with the WWE, as he discussed in a 2015 interview with the Wrestling Observer Live. After my last injury in 2011, I came back at the end in 2012. I felt like I rushed myself. I went back on the shelf, came back, and they put me with Sin Cara, and I felt like I wasn't going anywhere. I was being thrown in to just have tag matches. There was no direction for Rey Mysterio. My contract was coming to an end, and I decided not to re-sign. I wanted to take time off to spend with my family and go from there. Rey would work in Mexico and Lucha Underground, eventually returning to the WWE. Number 4. Stone Cold Steve Austin. One of the WWE's most successful wrestlers of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin's frustration with the WWE writing team led to a slow but steady deterioration in his business relationship with Vince McMahon. Following Austin's WrestleMania 18 win over Scott Hall, Austin began a very public discussion of his opinion of the WWE's creative team. Austin appeared on the WWE's Bite This program complaining, "Damn right I'm unhappy. The writing's pretty sh**. I don't know if anything is going to change with the creative, but something better and damn fast." Things only worsened, and on June 12, 2002, Austin walked out on the WWE after he was asked to put Brock Lesnar over clean on an episode of Raw. Austin was reportedly upset with being asked to put Lesnar over because the WWE was doing the match with no build-up, thus hurting Austin's character and leaving a considerable amount of money on the table. In a 2015 episode of The Steve Austin Show, Austin recalled the events leading to his walkout when Jim Ross told him he was going to be asked to put Lesnar over. "Back in the day, I was drinking a lot of whiskey, and then Ross laid out the finish for me, and I was laying in the hotel room. If that's creative, I ain't gonna be there." And he told me to call Vince McMahon. I said to him, "So that's what we're doing, huh?" And he goes, "Yep." And I was thinking he would say, "Well, yeah, unless you don't like it, Steve." And he didn't say that, so I'm just like, "Oh really? Okay. Then f*** you." And that's when I took my ball and went home, and that big smear campaign started. Austin would take his ball and go home as the WWE spun his walkout, beginning a months-long denouncement of the WWE's biggest superstar. Austin would return a year later, and in hindsight acknowledged it was a poor decision. "I handled it in the worst way I could by saying that's when I effectively quit, and I was gone for 6 or 8 months or whatever it was. For hell, it was basically career suicide for almost anybody. I lost a lot of money, the company lost a lot of money. It was just a bad part of my life that I handled in a horrible fashion. I blew that one, and it was on me. Although the Texas Rattlesnake returned to the WWE in 2003, his in-ring career was cut short due to long-term injuries, and he retired the day after WrestleMania 19. Austin left again in 2004 after a dispute over his outside business ventures, and in 2005 when he was asked to put Jonathan Coachman over. Yeah, the WWE wanted Stone Cold Steve Austin to put the Coach over in a match. Number 5. The Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior's love-hate relationship with Vince McMahon became legendary during the 1990s after repeated blowouts between the two. After allegedly holding up Vince McMahon for money or he'd walk out on 1991's SummerSlam main event, Warrior appeared and got his money, only for Vince to yell, "You're fired!" However, when WWF business began to slide, McMahon brought him back for WrestleMania 8, only to suspend him months later for using human growth hormone. The two's contentious relationship resumed in 1996 when a desperate McMahon brought the Warrior back yet again, this time at WrestleMania 12. To no one's surprise, the relationship was short-lived as the Warrior missed several house shows, claiming he had to attend his father's funeral. However, to Vince's knowledge, he didn't have a good relationship with his father, not seeing him in the last 10 years, and didn't take Warrior's excuse for missing the shows. The Warrior's WWE legacy seemed doomed after the company released the venom-fueled The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD, but the Warrior and the WWE eventually reconciled, with Warrior entering the WWE Hall of Fame just days before his untimely demise. Number 6. Despite helping to build the WWF into a national promotion, Hulk Hogan's appeal to the fans seemed to be diminishing and he grew tired with his wrestling career. Hulk Hogan dropped the WWF Championship to Yokozuna at 1993's King of the Ring and worked several international house shows before walking out on the company. In his 2004 autobiography Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Hogan disputes this, claiming, "I wasn't fired and I didn't quit. It was a mutual agreement. I would no longer wrestle for the company after I lost the championship to Yokozuna. I would just pursue other interests. The drama had just got out of hand, with people bashing me left and right, calling me selfish for some of the things I had or hadn't done in my career when it was always the promoter who had asked me to do those things." Whether or not the Hulkster walked out on the company is highly questionable, but his signing with WCW the next year dramatically changed wrestling's landscape. Number 7. Neville. Wrestling's self-proclaimed king of the cruiserweights had an up-and-down relationship with the WWE, receiving what he and some fans saw as lukewarm pushes. While Neville was pushed heavily in the Cruiserweight Division's 205 live show, he felt he was better served on the main roster. However, Neville concluded the WWE didn't know how to use him and walked out on the promotion, upset with his push and the fact that his WrestleMania match with Austin Aries was cut from the DVD, resulting in him losing money from royalties. Neville walked out of Raw after he was told he was putting Enzo Amore over. Rather than firing Neville, the WWE kept him cooling his jets at home until the end of his WWE contract. Number 8. Akeem. The artist formerly known as the One Man Gang shocked the wrestling world when he embraced his purported African heritage, transforming into Akeem the African Dream. Akeem had a high-profile tag team alongside the Big Boss Man as the Twin Towers, but like many wrestlers on our list, the WWF's grueling schedule taxed him. In 1989, Akeem missed Survivor Series, with some believing it was due to a walkout, but other stories claim it was due to an injury. Nonetheless, Akeem did leave the company in 1990 due to exhaustion. In a 2018 episode on Sean Mooney's Primetime podcast, the gang explained how he told Pat Patterson he was burnt out and done. According to him, Vince McMahon called him, saying, "George, what's the problem? We've got some things coming up. I know I've had you on the back burner for a long time, but I was fixing to take you off and get you heated up." He was adamant and walked out. Number 9. NAILZ. Big man Kevin Wacholz entered the WWF as NAILZ, a wrestler who claimed to be a former inmate at the prison the Big Boss Man had worked out, and who was now seeking revenge on the Boss Man for brutalizing him in prison. NAILZ debuted by delivering one of the most brutal beatdowns in WWF history to the Big Boss Man, launching a feud with him. A program with The Undertaker was planned next, but everything went out the window when Wacholz confronted Vince McMahon in his office, beginning with a verbal assault that eventually turned physical. In his memoir Hitman, Bret Hart recalls, "Kevin cornered Vince in his office and screamed at him for 15 minutes about all the lies he had been told. His yelling got so loud I had goosebumps on my back as I listened down from the hall. Suddenly there was a loud crash. NAILZ had knocked Vince over in his chair, choking him violently until Lanza, Slaughter and a swarm of agents teamed up to pull him off. NAILZ walked out and immediately called the police and accused Vince of making a sexual advance to him. The charges against McMahon were soon dropped, but lawsuits between the two followed, and NAILZ testified against McMahon during the federal government's steroid trial against him." Number 10. CM Punk. Although CM Punk defied naysayers who felt he had little chance of main event success in the WWE following his success on the indie scene, Punk proved them wrong, becoming one of the WWE's top main event players, both as a babyface and as a heel. Despite well-received matches and much acclaim from the fans, Punk felt the WWE was holding him back creatively, particularly in its repeated calls to put someone over other than him in the main event at WrestleMania. Concerns about payouts and the healthcare he was receiving from the WWE led to Punk walking out on the company after 2014's Royal Rumble. Punk never returned to the company and was informed of his termination on his wedding day to AJ Lee. Number 11. Brock Lesnar. Amateur wrestling sensation Brock Lesnar received one of wrestling's greatest pushes when he entered the WWE as the next big thing, destroying opponent after opponent until he won the WWE Championship just months after his 2002 debut. At the time, the youngest WWE champion in history, Lesnar grew tired with the WWE's intense travel schedule and what he saw as a short-sighted program against mid-card act Hardcore Holly and a championship loss to Eddie Guerrero. Despite signing a $1 million downside guarantee, Lesnar quit after his WrestleMania 20 loss to Bill Goldberg. A failed bid at NFL football with the Minnesota Vikings was followed by a championship-winning run in UFC and an eventual return to the WWE. And number 12. Chris Benoit. The circumstances behind Chris Benoit's demise have been well documented, but it's often overlooked that Benoit was scheduled to appear at a WWE house show just before his death, as well as its 24th June 2007 Vengeance pay-per-view. Benoit no-showed the events, and the less said the better. Well guys, there you have it, 12 instances where WWE wrestlers no-showed events and walked out on the company. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.